storyteller. Dear viewers, in this series we present short stories in simple English. You hear the stories while you may read them on the screen. The writer's name is at the end of each story. Please click on like, share and subscribe if you find the contents to your liking. We look forward to your valuable comments. And here we go with one. Renunciation. Ashok was in two minds. When he had started walking from Haridwar, he was full of enthusiasm and intending to be gradually acquainted with the hardship that awaited him in his mission ahead, he stepped out on the road with his side bag on his shoulder. He had purchased this saffron bag that morning and donated the briefcase brought from Kolkata to an inmate at the Dharamshala where he had put up for 2 days. The inmate was highly surprised and pleased to receive such a gift in return to his advice and direction to the Kolkata boy about the way to Rishikesh and also some related details. It was already past noon. With enough cash on him, the city-bred young man, now tired of walking, lastly decided to opt for a mechanized transport, at least for the starting phase, to be ready for the rigors after gradual mental and physical acclimatization. But finding none suitable midway, he decided to restart the next morning and trudged back to his starting point. Babuji, you are back? The advisor at the Dharamshala was surprised. Yes, I'll start early tomorrow, said the exhausted man. Through the afternoon, he sat at the Ganga Ghat, willing to witness the famous evening arti again. Suddenly, he heard a soft voice, followed by a tap on his arm, and he turned to see a young man sitting beside him, smiling gently. You are going to Rishikesh tomorrow, isn't it? Ashok nodded in agreement, somewhat surprised at the knowledge of an unknown intruder. I am Mohan Kumar. Your good name? Ashok Kumar. Ashok did not mention his family name to the stranger. In his current mission, he wanted less publicity, preferring to be recluse as far as possible. I am from Allahabad. You are from Kolkata? You seem to know all about me. Ashok's tone was a little harsh, but instantly he reprimanded himself, as he was now supposed to be humble everywhere. But Mohan Kumar said gently, from top to toe, you are a Bengali, including your accent. They were speaking in Hindi, and Ashok was aware of his weakness. Now he looked at Mohan in the face. He looked to be of Ashok's age. With a light beard, he had a lovable expression which made him attractive, and surely was not a renegade. Apart from his inquisitive approach, Ashok found nothing to dislike him. But further interaction had to wait because The ceremony with the lighted lamps commenced along with loud sounds, both vocal and instrumental, as was the practice. In a few moments, the entire environment turned highly boisterous. At the end, when they got up to move, Mohan said, "Actually, I have put up in the same dharamshala where you are. You looked much different from the others, and I got a little information about you." Now Ashok became easy, and they walked together discussing about themselves. They sat in a tea stall to have hot tea and snacks. Mohan told that he lived with his parents in Allahabad and worked in a commercial farm. He was 26 and decided to live a bachelor's life. Of late, he was fed up with everything and was in search of peace. He had visited these places earlier also. This time, his first stop was Haridwar. He had some more plans. So long, Ashok was very cautious to divulge details, but now he found a suffering soul similar to himself. He told how, after completing his MSc in chemistry, his search for jobs tormented him till he cracked a competitive exam and joined a government office last year. The boring job and the unhappiness all around drove him out for a change. When Ashok was speaking, Mahan looked at him intently as if he was memorizing the details. With such an interested listener, a speaker always feels encouraged and reticence eventually falls away. So, at the end of their long conversation, which continued even after reaching their dharamshala, they knew the details of one another, and Ashok was convinced that he had found the right companion who could guide him in his mission. It came out that Mohan was willing to renounce the world to become an ascetic and had left his parents without their knowledge. So he had to move with caution because in a few days his parents might alert the police and he might land in their net. He had already started growing beard and in the next 1 or 2 days would be changing into saffron robes to avoid easy detection. He said, "I know about a real saint in Uttarkashi, but before I approach him, I want some more self-rectification or self-cleansing, as you might say, so that he finds me acceptable. So I plan to move to Rishikesh in a few days and find a place where I can do meditation for some days. You know, the path of renunciation is not easy. You need to take lots of hardship and must have strong determination." Ashok was charmed. He told how he had heard exactly the same kinds of words from the Swamiji whom he had just met in Kolkata while expressing his interest in renunciation to be a saint. He had been mulling over the idea since long and looking for a suitable guidance. He met many personalities, but none could satisfy him. Eventually, he decided to come to Haridwar, where he was sure to find a way. He had lost his parents earlier and had two elder brothers with their families. He told them that he would be on a long tour of different places, so they should not be worried as they might not get any information from him even in a month. With some essential items tucked in a briefcase, he left home. Ashok carefully avoided telling Mahan about the hard cash that he had been carrying on person to avoid any kind of trouble in future. But I don't see a briefcase. You are having a jhola only, said Mahan. Oh, I have given it away to someone because I feel I must start shedding attachment, replied Ashok humbly. Excellent. You are on the right path. Mohan smiled. The next day, they went to purchase saffron robes, two sets for each. When Ashok tried to pay for all those, Mohan objected. No, I'll pay for mine. I have some money. Let's see how long it lasts. Let's keep our own expenses to ourselves. Things will be easier. Ashok appreciated the logic. They moved on to another dharamsala to put on their new garb and to spend a few more days here for adjusting to the new life. Ashok was advised to stop shaving, so his shaving kit was bidden goodbye. One set of trousers and shirt and some woolens were retained. Everything else was discarded. There were ready receivers. Ashok observed Mahan and tried to follow him. They avoided crowd as far as possible and sat in lonely places on the river bank, mostly silent, talking only on necessity. Ashok was feeling happier with his reticence, vegetarian food, reduced consumption of tea, and study of self. A completely new world of experience. The day of departure to Rishikesh came. Mohan rejected the idea of walking and they took an auto rickshaw. Mohan had spoken about a rich businessman in Rishikesh. The man had a big house, was religious minded, and patronized saints and pilgrims. He had a temple inside the large residential compound with an adjoining guest house where saintly people could stay when on pilgrimage. The two approached the entrance. Seeing two young saints, the watchman led them to the owner, who was resting in his garden chair. Very politely, the owner, Govindraj, requested Mohanananda and Ashokananda, as introduced by Mahan, to accompany a servant who would show them their rooms. Govindraj asked about their food. Mahan benignly said, only two chapatis twice a day. We are on strict diet. We want to meditate without disturbance. We may go to the riverside much before dawn. Will your gateman allow us? Govindraj, who was highly impressed to see the two young meditators, said, Maharaj, you are free to move. Nobody will ask you a thing. Only occasionally we may visit you to pay obeisance and hear one or two words of religion, and that too with your permission. They were allotted a room with two cots having woolen rugs and pillows. The other rooms were locked. The servant informed that in 3 or 4 days there would be a rush of pilgrims. In the afternoon, Mrs. Gavidraj came with her two daughters-in-law carrying fruits. The salutations being over, Mahan humbly picked up 2 cucumbers and returned the rest to the charmed offerers. All along, Ashok's role was of a mute follower, mostly keeping his eyes closed. After exchanging a few words, the impressed visitors departed. In the evening, Mahan took Ashok to a temple to see Aarti. Mahan had been here earlier and he knew a lot. So, Ashok had decided not to interfere in Mahan's dealings as he knew the place and how to tackle the people here. Early next morning, before sunrise, Mahan forced Ashok to get up and they went to the riverside. The comfortable weather of the early summer and the scenic beauty overwhelmed Ashok. He thanked Mahan, who only smiled. Before noon, Govindraj's daughter Kavita, who was around 20, came with her eldest sister-in-law carrying meal. In spite of his rarely opened eyes, Ashok saw a charmed look in Kavita's eyes as she was looking at Mahan with a fixed gaze. Mahan looked at the floor. The girl again came with her mother and sisters-in-law in the afternoon. Ashok felt something unusual with the girl, but later his oblique reference to this was brushed aside by Mahan. After the evening meal, feeling sleepy and determined to rise early, Ashok went to bed while Mahan was sitting in meditation. A terrible shaking with water sprinkled on his face aroused Ashok. He looked vacantly at the faces looking at him. He heard an uproar all around. Where's that Swamiji? Govindraj screamed. Ashok looked on foolishly and then he swooned. When medical help brought Ashok back to his senses, he learned that the other Swamiji had vanished and the girl Kavita was also missing. It was past noon and all attempts to trace them had failed. The gateman had seen two monks going out when it was still dark. In the morning, When search for Kavita was going on everywhere, it was discovered that one Swami was still asleep. Now the police had come. Ashok had no idea where Mohan might go. He recounted his whole story, but the police were not fully convinced, though it looked Ashok had been drugged by Mahan. To establish his identity, Ashok looked for his voter ID card, but the packet containing the card along with the cash was missing. Ashok was taken to the police station where he broke down. Ashok's elder brother in Kolkata was summoned to come, and the worried man arrived the next day to rescue his brother. From available details, it was conjectured that Subhesh Kumar, who hailed from Uttarkashi and had graduated from the same college of Kavita, was 2 years senior to her, and they had an affair. But this could not progress satisfactorily due to constant watch of the conservative Govindraj's men. The clever Subhesh maintained discreet distance, and then he disappeared from Rishikesh. But apparently the connection was alive, and now after Kavita's graduation they had planned the escape. The meticulous plan astounded everyone. Though the investigation was on and Ashok was released on conditions and was allowed to return home, the lesson learned was too hard for the relieved young man to repeat a similar plunge. Thank you for watching.